So yeah, a lot of people don't realize the hardest part of doing something is actually getting moving. It's like a train, all right? You got a train. You ever seen a train take off? You know, it's spinning its wheels for the first couple times until it actually gets that momentum. But once it's going, once it's down that track, it's just cruising, man. It takes almost no resistance. Once it's going for that train to move, you know, it might even get a little bit out of control. It's moving so dang fast. And then, you know, you got to plan for stuff, and sometimes you can't stop. But the important thing is you got to start moving. So whatever problem you got in your life, you know, whatever you got, sit your butt down, get a piece of paper, and write it down. Okay, what's your problems? Write them all down. Write them all down. Get your little list of problems that you got going on, and then you like number them 1 through 10, and then you go number 1. Well, what are your solutions? Well, you know, make your excuses and such like that. Get over that, and then actually research stuff. No, what do I got to do? Problem, you know, here, example. Problem, I'm broke. What do I do? Well, I can do this, this, and this. Let's ask AI about this. What can I do here? Here's my situation. Here's my exact situation and everything, and these are the hours I have available. What can I do? There you go. You're moving. You're sliding those wheels. But like I'm saying, the first step of that is you got to break out that paper, sit your butt down, figure it out, and get those wheels moving. And like I'm saying, right there, you're spinning your wheels. You're spinning your wheels. You're thinking, you know, you're spinning your wheels. The gears are burning up in your head, figuring this stuff out. And you're figuring it out. And then once you get a plan, next part of that is get some traction. Okay? Maybe you got to throw a little bit of sand on that. Back to the train reference. Maybe you got to throw a little bit of sand down. All right? Give that train a little bit of traction by getting a little bit of more momentum, you know, get some inspiration. Look at what others have done in your situation and gone from there. But the first step of that is getting moving. Then get moving, get a plan, get motivation, you know, look at what others have done, and then actually start doing things. Act, okay? You can do anything like this. Anything. You might look at somebody and be like, you know, they're cool, you know, I'll never do that. Screw that. You do anything the heck you want to do. Anything you want to do. If you got enough dedication, enough whatever, you can get it. All right? And everything else is an excuse. Well, I can't do that because of this. Well, this happened. Well, dang it, adapt. If something happens, you move. I mean, somebody throws some crap into the fan, you can stand there and take that, or you can step to the left, kind of deal. All right? You know, and you adapt, because stuff gets thrown in that fan all the time. You don't just look at it. You see it coming, and you step to the left. Maybe you step to the right. You just adapt, okay? And with that goal in mind, there's little 10 problems and 10 solutions, and how am I going to act on this? And then you just jump into something with, maybe you got to watch videos. Maybe you throw into something like talk with ChatGPT. I say it all the time. Talk with AI. Because AI is not going to be that judgmental. It's going to watch its butt, make sure you ain't doing anything illegal, you know. I advise you not to do this kind of deal, or this is like against code, or this is against policy, or this, you know, does this, and for this reason. It's going to be doing that, but it ain't going to be that it ain't going to be as judgmental as a person who might blow you off based on their opinions, okay? And throw it out there. You know, ask your problems, come up with solutions, and then ask like AI, well, here's my situation, exact situation, don't BS, don't sugarcoat it, you know, here's my exact situation, here's what I think might work, you know, here's what I would like to do. What do you think about this? And it'll throw you back and forth, and you'll be able to figure out almost any problem that way. Almost any problem. And maybe you got to do a couple other things to get there, and maybe you got to learn a couple skills to get there. But you'll get there as long as you keep moving. Once that train's moving down the tracks, there's almost no resistance. And it's the same deal. Where if you see a huge curb coming up, maybe you got a car on the tracks, you got to react. React to that, okay? Before you actually hit the car, kind of deal. And you're not always going to be able to stop. You're not always going to be able to react. You might get that train on 2 wheels kind of deal because you're moving too fast, or you didn't react, or you like assumed something and you assumed wrong. kind of deal. So you got to have a plan and a backup plan and all that, but you got to start by just moving. So if you just start moving, you're going to go, all right? And get that thing moving and towards your goals. You know, where's that train going? Well, that's all up to you. Where's the train headed? It's on a track. We got a track here. And you got to adapt. Once you start adapting to things, once you start moving, get everything in motion, that's the hardest part. The hardest part is moving, all right? You're on the couch, you're wondering why you're broke all the time. And, you know, watching TV and all that. Wondering why you're broke all the time. Well, you can be moving instead of doing something. Passive whatever is BS. It takes work to do things. Okay, there isn't no passive about anything. Nothing is passive. I hate that. Passive income, passive this, passive that. No. There's easier ways to do it, but it still takes work to get that train moving. Once you get that train moving, there's less resistance. It seems like it's passive, but you did all the work beforehand and now you're just cruising down those tracks. It seems like you're not doing any work, but you've already done the work. Even if it's a simple amount of work to get moving, you've already done the work. So yes, it seems like you're not doing any work or those people ain't doing any work, but you're actually doing that work. Or you've already put in that work. Kind of deal. But get moving. The first step is to go and act. All right? Get those train wheels moving. Get those, maybe you got to make some sparks, you got to move, okay? But you can do anything. There's nothing without resistance. Any kind of thing takes resistance before you can get less resistance. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. Maybe you got more than one thing going on at once. And I recommend it. You got maybe 4 or 5 different things going on at once, and all those things are making you more income, all right? And if one of those trains has an issue, you know, got that car on the tracks, you got 3 others that are flying down the tracks because you've already done that stuff. And I keep using trains as an example here, you know, but it's a good visual of you need to put in the work to get the wheels moving. And sometimes you'll be spinning your wheels a lot in the planning stages to get those wheels moving before you see any progress. You know, you might see years of spinning the wheels until you actually get things moving. But that's what it takes. And like I'm saying, maybe you consult it. Maybe you figure out, well, this water's not working on the tracks. What am I doing wrong? Well, you should have been using sand maybe. Or whatever. Something. Maybe you should spraying it down with rubber to get those more traction, more friction, and getting those things going. In this kind of case, it's a good kind of friction. And getting those things going. Or maybe you do realize, well, this isn't working because I'm doing this wrong. Maybe I got to look back. Once again, you got to adapt. But first step of that is actually sitting down and writing. It works for me. Sitting down, writing a list of your 10 problems. Because everybody's got 10. You could probably make 1,000, but let's start with 10. Your 10 biggest problems. And once you do that, come up with 10 problems. Okay. 10 thoughts on how to fix those problems. You know? And then talk with chat and all that. And then go back and forth on what you think is the solution and what it can recommend is a solution. And then go on that. And you can also use other people and mentors and all that if you want to go that way. Or if maybe you got to build connections, so you need mentors and all that. But I would sit down, a piece of paper, and your phone or whatever, computer, and just figure it out. And that's going to get you moving down that track towards something better. Because if you just sit there, nothing happens if you just sit there. All right? Sometimes thinking is, all right, sitting and thinking and focusing does give you time, but at the end of the day, all that thinking means nothing if you don't act. So come up with a plan and act. Get those wheels moving. Thank you.